Hi everyone, welcome to my video. If you're new here, my name is Sarah and I make a video about once a week about beauty, skincare, hair, that kind of thing. And I really try to focus a lot of my content on mindful consumption and underconsumption. So I do a lot of shop my stash using what I have and project panning. So that is what this week's video is. It is my project pan update for the month of August. I truly almost can't believe that it is September. We are in the latter half of the year, which makes me very excited. I know I skipped an upload last week. I just didn't have time to get something edited and up within that week time frame. Life is kind of busy at the moment. My husband is a teacher, so school just started again, so kind of getting back into a routine for the school year. And then we are potentially getting ready to move homes. So sometimes things just come up. And since I do this as a hobby, sometimes this is what has to take the back burner. So I really appreciate you understanding when I do skip a video. I try not to very often, but I do every now and then. So yeah, getting ready to potentially move also kind of makes you start kind of looking at some of your things, going through some stuff, thinking about what you want to bring into your new home. So I'm gonna link my Poshmark and my Mercari below, my storefronts there. I have a couple of things for sale up there. Some of them are beauty related, some of them are just clothes. So I'm just gonna leave those below in case you are interested in seeing any of those items. And of course, anything would be much appreciated. So yeah. But let's get into the update and project panning. So I'm gonna go over the 5 makeup items that I have been using in my project pan. I choose 5 items to be working on at once, and I'm either trying to use it completely up or hit pan. I think everything I have right now I'm trying to use completely up. And then once I hit that goal, I roll something else in. So my goal for this year is to use up or hit pan on 25 things in 2025. I don't know if I'm gonna hit that, but I feel like I am getting closer and closer as I start to use more things up. And then the second part of this is going to be my eyeshadow project pan update. Again, I have randomly chosen 5 different eyeshadows across all my eyeshadow palettes, and I'm trying to hit pan on those. So there may be an exciting update coming in that portion. So with all that being said, let's get started. The first thing I'll give an update on is my Hourglass 6 pan palette, and this I'm trying to completely use up this year. I've made pretty good progress so far. We completely used up the bronzer as a previous item, and then I've been kind of organically using up this kind of diffused shade and this lighter blush. But what is in the project right now that I'm really trying to make a dent on is this lighter, like highlighty bronzer over here. And it's hard to tell, but you can kind of see on the edges, there is some pan coming through, and that is the telltale sign. Once the pan starts coming through, it very quickly starts looking like this. So that makes me really excited. The only issue I kind of have with this shade is that it is so like glittery and shimmery. So I've been kind of dipping in here and then mixing it with another bronzer, and I mean, it's working fine. I don't know how it's going to keep going in the fall, but hopefully, since I can see the pan coming through on the corners and the edges, that means that it will be gone very quickly in the next month or two, and maybe by the holidays I will have moved on to a different bronzer. But that is very exciting. And then like I said, I've kind of been able to organically use up these 2 shades as well without putting them directly in the project. It helps when I'm just trying to use up the pan or the palette in general. So I'm dipping in here anyway for the bronzer shade, so then I just keep it open and I'm like, oh, I'll just go ahead and get a little bit of this powder to put like more on my T-zone and the blush to do a little blush topper. So it really works out. So I definitely think with the progress that I'm making, I realistically can finish this by the end of the year, and that would just be super exciting. The next item is my CoverGirl Clean Fresh Pressed Powder. I think I said in the last update that I was going to repress this, and I did not. I'm still able to get my brush around this edge and pick up some, and I definitely think the pan is expanding slowly but surely, but I do really think that next time I should repress it and just kind of see where I'm at after I do that. I just don't use a ton of this at a time. It's kind of a translucent, like really light shade. So I really just use this in my T-zone and under my eyes. So I wish I was using it a little more heavily, but I'm not. But it also just goes to show how little I use powder. So that is something else that can really help in project panning. It can show you how often or how not often, how much, how not much of something you actually are using in reality. Powder is something that I think a lot of people do go through more quickly than I do, but like I said, I'm usually just powdering my T-zone and maybe like setting a specific area if I need something more set, but this is what we're looking like slowly but surely, and I do think this will be done by the end of the year. This next item I did repress since the last time, and it is my ColourPop highlighter in Lunch Money. And I did repress this, and it kind of makes me sad because before everything was pushed to the edges, so there was a ton of pan, and now there's just no pan, so it almost feels like starting over, but I also know that this layer is so thin, so I definitely think that we can be still making progress. It's such a nice highlighter. It's just that champagne-y color that kind of can skew more silver depending on the look or more gold. So it's just that nice in between. So I think it works really well for everyday looks. I feel like I was pretty confident about using this up by the end of the year. Now I'm not, but I'm just going to keep going. And the closer I get, the closer I get. The last two items are my lip products. The first is my lip pencil. This is the Makeup Forever lip pencil in 3C. And I am so far, like, look how tiny it is. And actually, this last time around, when I went to sharpen it, the little like nub, it just like can come out now. So that is all that's left. Put that back in without breaking it. That probably wasn't smart. But that's really not that much. So I'm just going to keep using this until I literally can't get any more of the color out. It might just break off one day. I don't know, but there's really not a lot in there. But I really think if I kind of hyper focus on this in September, I think I can finish this by October, and that would be super exciting. It is so tiny. And then I think I have an exciting update for my Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip in Primrose as well. It is hard to see, but I said last time, what's difficult about these is you're not going to see any progress until you get to the part where the component is becoming clear, and I think we just hit that. I think once I start clicking, the clear is going to start progressing. Does that, I don't know if that's like showing up super well on camera, but I think that's where we are. So I think this is the amount that we have left. And so that also makes me really excited. I do really like these. I just think they're a little expensive, and there are other versions out there of similar products. So I am excited to use this up though. The combo of these together, which I'm wearing right now, is really a really good everyday look. It's just like that nice neutral wash of color that's like a little bit darker than my natural lips, but I don't think looks crazy for like a regular work day. So that is where we are on the 5 makeup items. So nothing to roll out on there yet, but I think next month we will have at least one. So that is exciting, and I'm always just happy with any progress. So now let's move on to the eyeshadows, which I always think is kind of the fun part. Okay, so let's start with the shadows, and I can say, looking back at my numbers, I was like, maybe I forgot to log a day or two, or maybe I just really didn't wear eyeshadow as much as I thought, but I tracked that I used all of these shades 14 times in August. That feels low. So I almost think I did miss a couple of days, but I don't really know, and I don't want to like conflate the numbers. But let's start with my Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette. And the color that I am working on in here is this one in the bottom corner, Wit. So it's hard to, it feels like there's like no usage to show on here, but I did use it at least the 14 times, and it is what I've been using in my crease. And I think sometimes with the Natasha Denona shadows, especially the mattes, they are very pigmented, so a little goes a long way. So even though I'm picking up some color on the brush, it's just not a ton, because once I put it in, I can really see it. But it is a really perfect crease transition shade, so I definitely am fine to keep this in the project. So let's do a little swatch so we can kind of get the picture of what we're going to be working with this coming month. Okay, so you see it's like that pinky peach color, which is also kind of nice for this time of year, transitioning from summer into fall. So let's do the next shade that I have also kind of been using as a crease shade on top of that, and that comes from the Modern Renaissance palette, and it is this shade up here, Golden Ochre. So definitely more that mustardy brown color, but I've been kind of putting them, like this will go kind of in the outer crease, and then I'm putting the golden one a little overlapping and more towards the inner. So it just kind of creates that nice transition. It's definitely, yeah, that like kind of lighter mustard brown. It's not showing up super good on my skin. It's very close to my skin tone at the end of the day, so I think that's kind of what makes it hard to show up. But my experience with the ABH shadows in particular, they are very soft and powdery, so I do feel like you can see a lot of usage on a lot of these shades, and I definitely see a dip going in here. So I definitely think hitting a pan on that is very realistic and is going to take maybe less time than I think it will. But that's the second shade. So now for another shade, we'll do the one that I've been using kind of on my inner corner, and it comes from my Alter Ego Coastal palette, and it is this shade Glow down here. And this one's a little difficult because it is very pretty, like as a shade in general, but I feel like it's very hard to get that color pickup on a brush and not just, I'm not always using my finger, but it does look really pretty with that witch shade. But I have been most recently, I've been kind of trying to put it on my whole lid, and it just really like, it's so sheer and so not pigmented that it's really hard to get that full pigmentation and the color to show up. So I've really been focusing it on my inner corner and kind of drawing it up. So that's kind of what I've been doing with that, and it's really pretty, but I'm hoping to get some more use out of it this month and maybe try and do more all over lid and use it a little more. But that's where we are so far with the color story. Pretty, pretty. The next color comes from my Profusion Mauves palette, and it is this color up here called Kindly. And I definitely feel like we are seeing so much progress. We can see the waffle coming through. And honestly, I've been using this as my blush most of the month. So I think that's why it's taking me a long time to hit pan and we're seeing the full waffle, because I'm dipping a larger brush in there and just getting it overall. I'm not concentrating like on one area or using a smaller brush to dip into one area. So I'm hoping that I see pan sooner rather than later, but I do think it is fun to be able to have a color in my project that I'm able to use not just as an eyeshadow, but also as a blush. And I have used it as a crease shade a couple of times, but since I have the two crease shades already in those other two palettes that work really well together, I've been focused on using this as a blush, and I think that's what I will continue to do. So the last shade, which is the one that I'm super excited to share, is from my ABH Sultry palette, and I had been working on the shade Cyborg, and it was the super metallic silver shade. It's what I put usually in like the middle of my lid every day, and so I was able to hit some pan on this, which makes me super excited. But it's also so interesting because out of all the colors in this palette, that's probably one of the last ones I would have ever thought I would have hit pan on, especially first. So definitely excited that I was able to make so much progress on that and hit pan. And let me see what my total was for how many times I had to use that to hit pan. Okay, so I had to use Cyborg 70 times to hit pan. That is a lot of uses, but I'm really proud of myself for sticking to it, because when I rolled it in initially, it was very intimidating to me and just a color that I wouldn't reach for and didn't think that it was something I could do in an everyday look. And I kind of found a way to make it work and layer it over some different shadow shades to create more of a taupe look instead of like a bright silver. So with that being said, it is now time to roll in a new shade. So let's see what my randomizer app gives me and how that corresponds to my spreadsheet. Okay, so I'm gonna put up here me rolling on the randomizer app on my phone, and it gives me number 20, which when I go to my spreadsheet corresponds to my ABH Norvina palette. So we're rolling in another ABH palette, even though we just rolled out Sultry. But in here, that corresponds, to the shade Rose Gold. So super shimmery. So I feel like we're replacing a super bright silver with a super bright new glitter. But now that I'm seeing all of these together, I have got a super pink color story going on. Oh wow, that rose gold is intense. Okay, so we've got Wit, we've got Golden Ochre, we've got the Glow from that Coastal palette. That's the Profusion, I already forgot what that one is, Wild or something. Kindly. The Profusion's Kindly, and then Rose Gold. So wow, that was an intense swatch, which I think we could definitely tone down in some looks, but that will be a great all over lid shade. And yeah, I just think I guess this is saying that a lot of colors in my collection are in the pink family. I don't know, pink mauve family, but I'm pretty happy with that lineup. I'm excited to start making progress. Again, the Norvina palette, it's truly one of my favorites, but it's one that I also don't have any pan in. So I'm excited to kind of reach into this one more, because a lot of times what happens is I don't always wear every single color every single day. Some days I'll just dip into one or two of the palettes, and then it forces me to use other shades in the palette as well. So I'm excited to kind of do that and get some more use out of my Norvina palette. It's one of my favorites and I wish they still had it, but they don't, unfortunately. So that is everything for this week's video and this month update of my project pan and my eyeshadow project panning. Please give me a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I would really appreciate that. Leave a comment below letting me know what you are most excited for this time of year. We're definitely in that transition into fall period. I would love to know what you're looking forward to for the rest of the year. Hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you're updated of all of my upcoming videos, and I will see you next time. Bye.